Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jason Strudwick, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic, and here's our main man, James Duthie, in studio, looking very soccer-like tonight. I like that.
Well, I have soccer suits and shirt and tie combos that are different from my hockey.
It looks like a soccer suit. It looks very like London chic.
It's tighter.
It's
tighter.
It is tighter.
I go over a little brighter, a little huey, little Euro.
I like 30%.
it. Actually, I need a South American look more than a
Yes,
Euro.
you do.
Don't I?
Yes, although we're North American, so we don't want that. I guess you can't be rooting for Venezuela tonight, right? You got to figure that out.
I am 100% Canada. My wife is 100% Venezuela.
Because your off season begins when
She's
Canada
like,
stops.
were you supposed to have summer starting July 2nd? I'm like, no, honey, I'm doing the soccer thing till it's over. No, I'm just kidding. She wants Canada to win.
Yeah, of course. She's Canadian. Portugal, France in extra time right now, too, in the Euros. What a match that was this afternoon.
What a day.
Yeah.
I mean, these, if you're a football fan, like the matchup's incredible. So you go these two matchups back to back, and then you get Canada tonight trying to do something they've never ever done before. That's pretty cool.
This feels like a monumental moment, even though this isn't a championship match tonight, and it's Venezuela. It's not like you'd beat Argentina or Brazil or something like that. But the more focus you can have on the field of play and the more positivity that comes out of the field of play, as opposed to all the distractions off the field that are constantly hanging over Canadian soccer and the men's team, like that, I think is something that needs to be pushed forward, right? You got to keep giving positive stories on the pitch, and that can happen tonight.
Historically, they just haven't had moments, right? 1985, they beat Honduras and St. John's, Newfoundland to make the World Cup for the first time. So that was a big deal. Nothing really happened in the World Cup. They didn't score. They lost all three. Then the Gold Cup in 2000 when Craig Forrest was so great, and they were kind of a surprise team, and that was probably the biggest victory tournament-wise they've had. And then the run to the World Cup was spectacular, and the Ice Teca game in Edmonton and everything, and the win over Jamaica here. But it's like one hand, the moments that Canada's had like this. And I felt like this entire tournament, I keep saying, one of the biggest games for Canada ever. I said it for the opener against Argentina in Atlanta, because it was, not for what the stakes were, but the spectacle to play the world champions, reigning world champions in a competitive match never happened before. And then finally winning against Peru. It was one of their biggest wins ever.
Yep.
And then advancing in Chile was their biggest draw ever. Right. And now this is the biggest opportunity ever because it's a massive, this tournament is a massive deal in South America. Like, I was going through and translating articles in Chile and Peru. Chile and Peru are in a crisis right now because they got eliminated by this hockey country.
Right.
Right. And
like Canada, how dare you lose to them?
100%.
It's embarrassing for them.
And Venezuela, like you say, is not a soccer power. They've never made a World Cup. It's very much the same as Canada. They've only been to the semis once at this tournament. And so this is the biggest night in their soccer history, right? And that's a country that lives and breathes soccer. So, it's summer in Canada. We've got a bunch of things going on, but this is a momentous game in this country and down in South America.
Yeah. Go ahead, Strud. Are you on board with this? You're feeling the same way?
I'm excited for this one tonight. So, James, I guess, it's always great to see the team, Canada, kind of move up and get involved in these games. But have you seen them kind of take the mindset of, we're not just here to try, we're here to win? And because that's a big shift in mindset for any team or any country.
Mm-hmm. And they said they felt differently at World Cup, but let's face it, I think the whole country kind of felt it was a bit of a happy to be here moment after all the 20 years of,
especially the draw too. It was like Belgium, Croatia.
It was
You're like, they're not going to get out of that.
Although they had that first game against Belgium, there was kind of hope because they dominated for the first half an hour. But look, that whole tournament was kind of a free pass for them, right? Mm-hmm. They finally qualified. It was awesome for them to be there. But I think they did come into this thing, and you're bang on, Struddy, with, okay, it's got to change now. Because there's been a lot of these games, even the friendlies against France and the Netherlands, where they tied the 0-0 against France. Well, way to go. They hung in there with France. They wanted to be past that hanging in there, happy to be here thing. Oh, look, at Canada can play with these world countries and hang in there and only lose 2-0 to Argentina. They don't want any part of that. And I think if you saw Alphonso Davies' interview right after the Argentina game, there was no, hey, this is, a step forward for us. He was mad because they blew opportunities and they could have had a better result in that game. And so I legitimately think that they think they can win this tournament. Now, can they win this tournament? If they win this game, can they really beat Argentina and maybe beat Brazil or whoever in the final? Probably the odds would be long against it. But they think that they can. And I think that's what Struddy's getting to. That's a change in mindset for Canada.
Yeah, it is. Now, I'm curious how the Tajon Buchanan injury factors into that. You take someone who's going to be in the starting 11 playing a prominent role for you, and he's out. Not only is he out tonight, he'll be out in the semis, he'll be out in the final.
Yeah.
That's pretty daunting.
Yeah, well, he didn't start last game. Like, he had a really brutal first game against Argentina and hadn't started the last two. But when he came off the bench in the last game, like, he was really good in the last 20 minutes. So you're probably right. He probably would have started this one. But I think that, John Herdman did this whole brotherhood thing, and I really think it was a bit hokey, but it worked. Like, these guys did come together. And, Marsh, we get a chance to talk to him before every game, and he says, like, he's coached everywhere. Like, that's an experienced guy. And he's like, I really, like, these guys are really as unified as a team that I've ever had before. And that was pretty cool last night, Buchanan coming there and all the guys coming down to greet him. And so, look, it's a kind of Hollywood script thing. Do you rally around the injured teammate? It's every sports movie ever made.
Yeah.
But I think they are doing it, and it works, right? Simple stuff works in sports. Athletes are simple creatures. Give me something to play for, something extra to play for, and I think the Buchanan thing will help them tonight.
I wanted to ask a hockey question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I allowed to?
Is
Not
it,
yet?
Yeah, you can if you want. Is it
No,
a
I'll
relation?
save it.
Do you have a soccer analogy that you can apply?
No, I was just, when James was talking, I was just thinking back to our argument a couple weeks ago where you said that there was no chance that Canada could ever catch up to these other countries, and I was just, apparently Canada thinks differently.
Well, that's great. I appreciate their thought process. I don't know. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think it's just pure numbers and the way the sport is in the country. But can they be, can they now be a team that's in the World Cup, for the next 15, 20 years? I mean,
that'd be a huge leap forward considering it was 86 to 22.
No, but is
like
this, how they call the golden generations, and countries have golden generations where for a dozen years they have their best results ever. I think this is probably it for Canada. The question will be does this spawn the next generation, right? And that's an answer we don't have yet. But to your argument a couple of weeks ago, just the system of development is not the same in these other countries. So that's probably an unrealistic goal. But right now, in this window that we're in right now, they think they can do some damage.
Yeah, and I'm not downplaying, what they've accomplished here, and I'd be rooting for that. But you're also, there's a lot of places around the world where the soccer season is in 6 months, and it's soccer is king, where all the athletes are filtered through that system. And it's just a different history and a culture. And like you referenced Craig Forrest, who is obviously one of the great Canadian international players. He was tweeting today about how many Canadian fans are going to be in Dallas tonight, and the Canadian media that's going to be there. And I don't like, how do we get over the top to the point where you have 25,000 Canadians going down? I don't think you're going to match that, like the passion that Argentina has, that Venezuela has, that these other countries where this is the sport, like this is it. Up here, soccer is competing with so many other sports.
Yeah.
In terms of the passion, in terms of the coverage, in terms of the money, it's
kind of like,
battle.
To your point, like the analogy with hockey, it would be like, could Norway ever catch Canada in hockey?
Yeah. Right.
No, right? We would say that's a ludicrous comment. It will
Exactly.
never happen. That's probably what the rest of the world would say if you asked that question about Canada, catching an Argentina or whatever. Just will never happen.
Or like the Czechs.
Yeah. But enjoy
They
it.
won.
You're around and you can win if you get everything connected and everything comes together.
So, that's why these things are big. So if people roll their eyes and say, oh, it's just Canada getting to a semifinal, that's not a big deal. They haven't won anything. But that's considering, if you step back and look at the way these other nations and continents, in the sense of North America, how soccer is everything there in all these countries, and everyone plays. And this little Canadian team has come in, and to make the semifinal, that's a significant, massive achievement. Like, we'll look back and, in 30 or 40 years and go, that was unless Canada goes on a roll and wins some of these things down the road, this will be one of the biggest achievements they've ever had.
Yeah, it keeps pushing the bar higher and higher.
I mean, did you see? You guys were watching the Argentina game last night? Did you see the guy they showed who kept crying?
Yeah, the
And I was like,
Paraguayan
that's
fan.
never happening for
Right.
No, I saw
Canadian
the
soccer.
Ecuadorian fan. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, was he Ecuadorian?
Yeah, I think he was a fan of, I don't think he was an
I hope
Argentinian.
so. Was he had no dog in the fight and he's just crying?
I think he was just bawling every time there was a save against him or whatever.
He was so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I think there's going to be things that will challenge, how many people are jumping on the bandwagon right now, because when they won CONCACAF and they went to the World Cup, you're going to get a lot of people that jump on. And what ends up happening, and I find I'm sure it happens around the world, it happens up here all the time, is you get the diehard fans who've been around forever, they get resentful.
Oh yeah.
Who are you to start talking?
Like when people start liking your band, you're like,
yeah,
where were
exactly. You weren't watching them when they were playing in front of 25 people. I was. Yeah. And like that attitude and mentality doesn't help anything. Like the more and more people that are going to jump on board, the better. Yeah. But there will be cycles, and that's another example of like Argentina. They're usually always top 5 or top 10 team in the world. But if they have a down cycle, like even Brazil, based on their standards, are in a down cycle
right now.
It's not like the ratings are plummeting 200. Like people are still just as rabid and can't wait to talk about it and see it. Mm-hmm. That's a sign of like, okay, you've made it. Yeah. When the golden generation maybe transitions and the team steps back, but people are still really engaged. Like that's when you've kind of left a mark.
But some people stay. Right. So when you jump on a bandwagon, not everyone jumps off the bandwagon, right? Some people stay on it. Like I remember watching Christine Sinclair. She played at Commonwealth Stadium when she was like 17 or 18. This is years ago. And I've always followed her career.
You were there from the beginning. See?
I didn't discover. I didn't want to give myself that much credit, but
basically you did.
You were a coach and you're better than us.
She might be a player, Canada, but no. And I've followed her all the way through her whole career. And so that I was not the biggest soccer fan, but now she's made me love the game, the way she plays. And now I follow the Canadian team. Again, I'm not a hardcore guy, but you got to get someone jumping on the bandwagon for some to stay, and then more stay and they more go. So I think it's positive. And maybe next time instead of 1,000, maybe there's 5,000 that are in there wearing the red and white.
That would be great.
I just go, I gauge my golf buddies on a lot of things. I'm sure you do the same when you're doing a topic on the Leafs or whatever, right? And how they're feeling. And just before, when I was about to start this tournament, they're like, "You done now with hockey done?" And I'm like, "No, I'm doing Copa America. Canada's. I'm going to Atlanta. Canada's playing Argentina." "Oh, what's that?" "Yeah, it's this big continental tournament. It's like the 3rd biggest tournament in the world, and Canada's playing the World Cup champs in the opener." Like no idea, no idea. And now the same guys are like, "So with Buchanan out." Does Osorio slot in there or what? Like, I'm serious. Literally the same guys today. So they've jumped on board, and like you say, to me, the bandwagon can get as full as it possibly can, and this is the perfect build up to 26, which is going to be a once in a lifetime thing to have this World Cup in Canada.
Right.
And they're going to have a really good chance not to get too much into the weeds to get out of the group. Right. The way they do the draws, they're going to be up with the top seeds because they're one of the hosts. And because they're expanding it to 48, the teams in their group are going to be like the 15th best team in the world, the 30th best, and the 43rd or whatever. So they'll have a real chance to advance at the World Cup. Now, there'll be a lot more pressure on them than there is now, say, in Copa. But it's just, it's cool to be a part of. You're right. It might end. And, in 20 years, we might be back to where we were. But enjoy the ride while it is.
That's
and like Struddy says, maybe it inspires young men and women and it builds into something longer and bigger.
Absolutely.
But Duthie, the question everyone wants to know though is, do your golf buddies tailor the arms of their golf shirts like you do to be snug?
Nobody gets the youth mediums like me, I order them special from Puma.
Yeah. That's your go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look great.
It looks good. Swing
Guns
looking
a-blazing.
good. Feeling
Guns
good.
a-blazing.
Not so good.
No. Okay.
The hockey and the soccer has been wonderful to attend, but it does. I'm one of these guys that needs volume to
right. You got to get your swings.
Yeah. Swing zone. I need to play every day for like 2 weeks. So.
I hear you. You. James Duthie in studio. Do you have a hockey question
I do.
for James?
So, James, you just did July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is true because I remember seeing on the broadcast the 1 billion, but I was thinking like, weren't that many contracts where I was like, what the heck are they doing? There were some where I was like, I wouldn't do that. But there wasn't like, remember we had that one year we were like, oh my God, look at that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Do you think teams are getting smarter, or probably not?
I remember I don't know if it was the first year we ever did the show, because we haven't done it as long as Trade Center. But one of the first years we ever did it, it was like Brian Campbell signed that deal with the Blackhawks, I think.
Wasn't it like 12 years or something?
Yeah, like times 8 or 9, and Chris Drury signed a ridiculous, and Danny Briere, and there was all this ludicrous stuff, and that was in the first 2 or 3 years, I think, that we did the free agent frenzy, and you were like, wow. And then there was the Jeff Finger year, and stuff like that.
That was a good one.
Head scratchers. But you're right, that was one of the wackiest days, Hayes. Just the first hour of the show, which is 11 to 12. We're trying to do a lot, right? We're trying to get in all of our reporters, get in all of our panels, kind of set the table for people, do some shtick, that Plinko thing we were doing. You're trying to set up everything. And so as a host, I was running all over the place. And the signings were coming so fast that I could not keep track for the life of me. And so then you get like, Billy, the producers in your ear going, okay, you got Oliver Ekman-Larsson on interview right now. And in my head, literally, I'm going, who the hell did he sign with?
Yeah.
What do you feel about your new team, Oliver?
I'm halfway through the first question. I'm like, we welcome Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Oliver, congratulations on your new deal. I'm going, please, who? And then like little bird inside my brain said Leafs. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Leafs. And that was a frightening moment, because I could not keep track of who was going where.
I know.
And for what. And, it settles in around 2:00 where the madness kind of ends, and kind of the opposite of trade deadline where it picks up at that time, and it settled in. But that was you're right. When they showed that board at the first hour, the graphic, and it was $765 million, and we were like a half an hour into the show.
What is going
I was
on?
like, what has happened here?
I guess it was just turnover this year.
And it was the cap going up and just volume turnover. You're right.
Yeah.
And but it was still, to see that down there, that we had more in the first 45 minutes than the past 6 years, the entire day combined.
Yeah.
Was something to see.
It is difficult to keep track of everything. And I'm not like hosting. A lot of times I'm sitting there looking at my phone, and I lose. I got on the air. I came over here at 5, and I had to get Doogie to print out the 7 Canadian teams and their signings, because I could remember the big ones, but there were others. I'm like, I don't know who else signed.
And your risk could be the idiot on TV going, this team's done nothing. And then Johnny's at the other end of the table going, well, they signed
Actually,
They signed 4 guys.
I really like their activity today.
Oops.
Yeah, they really improved.
Yeah.
It's that
was
a
fun
great
though.
day though.
It's
man.
it's
a fun day.
It's so, I said this on air, it's so much better than trade deadline. And I know trade deadline's kind of our bigger show because it's in season, and I guess it has more history to it, and there's more possibilities. But free agent frenzy is so much better because so much more happens, and really the deals are so much more impactful because they are such long term. And so the mistakes, if you make a mistake at trade deadline, okay, so it's costing you your first round pick. You kind of, fans forget about that in a couple of years.
No, they don't.
Well, okay, they don't. Jonas never forgets. But, you sign a guy for 8 years, and, and then you got to buy him out after 2 years, a la Jack Campbell or something, and it's ugly. And, man, so it just feels like the stakes are so much higher.
Yeah, and it's more spontaneous because you can rely on the news. Like, to your point, like Trade Center, it can be 12:30, and you're like, there's been 2 deals.
We got nothing.
Like, nothing's going
Just
on.
nothing.
Yeah, and it is a lot you know.
The fascinating thing, too, and I don't really talked about this on the air, only 5 years ago or so, I mean, you didn't know the years better than me. There was the time when the talking period was allowed, but before the talking period was allowed, so maybe that's a little further back, you were not allowed, like, it was this strict thing that you were not supposed to talk until 12 noon. And obviously all these deals would be announced at 12 noon, so everybody cheated. But the NHL still, like, there was nothing announced before 12 noon. And then one year, a few years ago, it just started to break, and they just stopped caring. They just, like, it still says in the rules you're not supposed to talk till 12 noon on July 1st. And yet at like 9 a.m., all the deals are being announced now. And I think, I just think the league says,
it's just give up.
Who cares? And they're right to do that, right? Who cares? It's a short period. These guys got to get business done. So I'm good on the league to not make a big deal of it. But it is still in the rules.
Right.
Everybody's just completely publicly breaking them.
This year in particular, like, there were teams that just stayed in Vegas. Like the Leafs. They went down for the draft. They said, screw it. We're not even going to get on a plane. We'll just stay down here and we'll keep working. Anyway, Canada, Venezuela on TSN tonight. And looks like we could be going to kicks, Portugal, France. Yeah, they are tied 0-0 through 110 minutes.
One thing to remember, Copa, unlike Euro, straight to kicks after 90, as we saw with Argentina last night. So Canada, Venezuela is none of this extra 30 minutes afterwards. If it goes to 90, straight to PK.
Straight to kicks.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good thing to know tonight. All right, Canada, Venezuela. Enjoy that, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll see you soon.
See you
There he is, James Duthie, joining us here. Again, a big one tonight. And again, great action on TSN right now. Portugal, France will continue to track that. Warren Foegele coming up. Jays on the West Coast. They're in Seattle. We'll tee that up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Warren Foegele coming up here in just a moment of the LA Kings. And Mail It In Friday is brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. BP serving fish bowls and ice cold pints on a patio all summer long. So grab your sunscreen and let's have ourselves a weekend. The Boston Pizza patio is calling. Yes, it is. Yeah. This kind of weather is made for patios. And the Jays are in Seattle. So they're on the West Coast before the All-Star break hits. And, coming up with different things to talk about daily, it's difficult to do on a daily basis when they're resulting in losses and you know where the season's going. Mm-hmm. Spencer Horwitz, very positive story. I like what I've seen. There's a couple of other pieces here where I'm like, all right, Vladdy's turning a corner. I like that. But ultimately, the daily conversation, I find there's more of a fascination here. And Jonas, you tell me if I'm reading the streets of Toronto correctly.
Okay, I'm the voice of the streets. So
You're the voice of the streets. More chatter about what should happen to Shapiro and Atkins and maybe Schneider than like what they actually will do at the trade deadline. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
More so, it's like you got to just change everything as opposed to you're going to put Chad Green on the block, or Trevor Richards what are you going to get for Trevor Richards? Like, I also think there's almost a concession from Blue Jay fans that they're just not going to get that much anyway, unless they're going to trade a Vladdy or a Bo or whatever. And I don't think they'll do that. So what do you think you're getting?
Don't you think that's maybe a little overdue? Like that thinking? It's been a long time.
Focusing more on the guys making the moves as opposed to the moves themselves.
Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
Yes.
Like those guys were brought in, I think, in 2015.
Yeah, Shapiro's here in 15, and Atkins took over in 16.
Right, and there was the run in 16.
Which was Anthopoulos' team.
Which was his team. And since then, I don't think it's been anything. I don't know if they've won
back-to-back years, but losing to Seattle in somewhat embarrassing fashion and losing to Minnesota in embarrassing fashion.
Like, what's
and now they're 9 games under 500.
And then you look at the farm system, and you're like, well, there's not really anything coming. And the one guy who was coming,
he's suspended.
He's gone
for another 72 games or whatever.
So it's like it's almost 10 years and nothing is happening. I mean, we've had that conversation on different fronts.
Yes, we have.
I don't know that. Like, I think it's reasonable. Like at a certain point, you need results, and there have not been results. So.
Yeah.
But I guess my point would be this, guys: if you're going to change that level, do you not change it prior to the deadline, so that there's a new group that are making the choices that we're undoing?
Yeah,
I guess
that's
the
always
choices.
tricky, eh? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do you want the same people that got you to this point to make decisions for the next?
You probably hold out
case.
Vlad and Bo and just say, yeah, we're going to hold that.
Right.
Okay.
Right? Everything else, you guys are cool.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Mark Shapiro is not going anywhere.
Right.
I don't think Mark is going anywhere. I don't know what they're going to do with Ross, what they'll do with John Schneider. I think Mark is a very loyal guy. I think he obviously works well with Atkins. I think they feel like they have the right answers here. It just hasn't worked out. And I'm sure they're pitching to ownership. Listen, this is a one-off. It's a blip in the radar. We'll retool. We'll get back on the get back on the horse next year, and it's going to be all good. But that is a very good question that needs to be asked. Like, if something's going to change at the GM role, if that's kind of a foregone conclusion, at the end of the season you're going to change it, should that guy be making decisions at the trade deadline? Should that guy be making possible or coming up with dialogue with agents in terms of future contract negotiations?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you just kind of wasting everyone's time in doing so? That said, I think, like we know with Shanahan, Ujiri, Shapiro's in on everything. Like, nothing major is going to happen with that team unless Mark is the one making the call. That's the way it works. And it's no different with the Leafs, no different with the Raptors. That's sports in the modern era. There's a guy at the top Doesn't talk all the time. Doesn't have to go out and talk all the time, but he's the one making the calls. All right, speaking of the West Coast, we've got a guy on the line here who was signed with the LA Kings, and 2 weeks ago he was in Edmonton, obviously going on just an incredible run. He had a great season. I know, Struddy, you're a big fan as well. I think a fan favorite out there in Edmonton, and I'm sure the same will apply when he gets to LA. Here's Warren Foegele joining us here on Overdrive. How you doing, Warren?
Good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this. We've been talking to a number of players throughout the past couple of weeks from Florida, from Edmonton, about just how big of a whirlwind the last 2 weeks has been, considering the Cup final just got handed out. Then you had to make a call with your contract and your future. I guess we'll ask you the same thing. Like, how crazy has it been to focus on hockey and then immediately have to focus on business and make a call on where you're going to sign?
Yeah, it's been a pretty hectic, crazy last 2 weeks. You know, you're all in, trying to win the Stanley Cup, and then within a couple days it's free agency. So it has been a crazy time, and just kind of thankful that now it's time to focus on the off season and put my focus there.
Yeah, long season for sure. It goes so long, and right into almost July. The last 3 years, Warren, you've been with Edmonton, and obviously, some deeper playoff runs, not as deep as last one this last year. What did you kind of grow as a person and as a player? What have you learned just that you might take, or you will take with you to a Kings team that I'm assuming wants to push the same way?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I took away this year is, you got to be able to have a short memory. You may have one bad game, one bad shift, but you can't dwell on those moments. The team needs you to perform to your best. And saying that, someone told me while I was going through the playoffs this year is the next game, it's a new opportunity for someone to be a hero. And that really stuck with me, because through the playoffs, there's a lot of highs and lows. And, I think our group was able to manage that as a team, and that's one of the reasons why we were able to go on such a deep run, because we had different guys step up at different moments, and that's key when you're trying to go on a big run.
Was there like one moment that you'll look back on, like when you think of the run, what's like the moment or the situation that will come to your mind?
As a team or for myself?
Either, just like 20 years from now, someone's asking you, like, what happened during that run? Like, that must have been awesome. What will the moment be, the story, something that comes to your mind at that?
Well, I think the story, the easiest one to come to mind is, we're down 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals, and everyone's just writing us off, right? Mm-hmm. And it just adds to the season our team had, where we were always kind of put ourselves in a hole, and everyone's against us, and how are we going to get out of this hole? And, we were inches away of, getting out of that hole. I think for me, what I'm always going to think about is that second goal that they scored there, like 10 seconds before that, I throw it to the net, and it's just laying there, and then it's inches away from going in the net. And then 10 seconds later, they go on a rush the other way and they score. So it's crazy, the margins, to win, and you kind of need things to go your way. And it's pretty wild, just thinking about that, and, how close we were, and kind of, how proud I am of the group that we had. And, it's just sad that we just couldn't finish it all.
We're chatting with Warren Foegele, and, we mentioned the idea of playing for the Oilers and then making a business decision. And you obviously had to do that, and you end up signing in L.A. And what's kind of fascinating hearing you talk about that, how proud you are of your teammates and the grind and how close you got. So now you turn the page and you're a rival. You're in the division, and like the Oilers play the Kings basically every year in the playoffs. Like, how do you wrap your head around that like, you're not an Oiler anymore, and not only are you not, like, you're going to battle with these guys a lot when it comes to playoff position, playoff games. What do you anticipate that experience will be like the first time you maybe head into Edmonton and play the Oilers?
Yeah, I know. It kind of gets me excited, to be honest. I love to compete. I just love battling out there, and it will be weird for sure. I've made so many great friendships in Edmonton, and it was kind of funny when I signed. I had like 3 other Oilers that were there with me. So when they found out it was LA, it was, sorry guys, once we're on the ice, it's war. So, I'm excited for that. I'm hoping to, help them, make that push. You can make the argument out of the last 3 years that Edmonton beat them. It could have went to LA out of 2 out of the 3. The game just is inches, and special teams is a factor. And this year, I think Edmonton. I don't think LA had a power play goal, and they weren't able to stop the Oilers power play. So, I'm hoping to bring my knowledge from playing with these guys for 3 years to bring it to LA. And it seems like it's such a great group of guys and a great organization, and I'm just super excited for that.
As I watch the Kings, they're a hard out every game. I think they'd be really frustrating to play against, and that, having played against them so many times. So, why does that suit you? Like, why do you feel like you fit in? You can just continue to do what they do already, and help them, make it a little bit harder.
Yeah, I just think the way I play my game, I rely a lot on my speed and my work ethic. And when I was looking at teams, and I just thought that they would be a really good fit for me, and I saw there was an opportunity for me to maybe have a larger role than what I had in Edmonton. And, I've been in the playoffs my whole career, and, this was a team that, I think is competitive, and, I want to continue playing in the playoffs. And, I'm hoping I can do anything I can to, help them, get past the first round. And, the hardest thing to do is just get into the playoffs. And once you're in, anything can happen, right? So looking forward to, getting to know my teammates and, going against my former friends. So that'll be fun.
Warren, you mentioned your teammates. What do you think it's going to be like to play with Doughty?
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Just playing against him for the last 3 years, he's definitely put some minuses against me, so it'll be nice to be on the ice with him. And he's always chatting, and he's an elite player. He's so good with the puck, and he's really good defending. So pretty nice to have elite defenseman like that on your team.
With Warren Foegele, so what's the summer plan? Back in Markham? What do you got cooking throughout the summer before you set up shop in LA?
Yeah, usually on the weekends I go up to Muskoka. I got a bunch of friends up there too, and we usually hang out and just enjoying this week. I think I got to start training next week and get back to the grind. But it's crazy how short the summer is going to be. But looking forward to getting to LA, and I was just actually contacting someone. I don't think I need my winter tires down there in LA.
No.
So,
That's true. Sell them to Struddy. Struddy, you probably need some in Edmonton.
No, I know. I'll put them on Kijiji for him. Just send me a note. I'll put them on Kijiji. I'll get you 50%. I'll pay you 50% for them. Good deal.
That's great.
Yeah. That's not does anyone ever skate up in Muskoka, or you just go water skiing and boating and swimming? Like, there are rinks up there, but is anyone ever skating? Because there's got to be 100, 150 NHL players up there every summer.
Yeah, there is actually. Sam Gagne was on our team this year, and he started this program called Muskoka Hockey. So he's trying to get more guys to skate up there, and I think Tavares and some other guys may skate up there. But that's something maybe in the future I'll do. And like you said, there's just more hockey players moving up there. It's funny. Adam Henrique it just moved right beside me to my parents' place. So it's kind of a small world, how it all works out. So
absolutely.
So yeah.
Let's talk Sam Gagne though. I played with him. Seriously, does this guy does he only do reverse toe drags? Because I'm guessing that's all he does the whole time. He was trying to teach me at 30. I'm like, but I can't do him ever. Is that all he does out there? Because I love him, but he loves that move.
He's a super skilled player, and he's the ultimate pro. You don't play in this league for that long if you're not doing the right things. And he was a big leader for our group this year, and kudos to him for having the career that he has. And I think there's still some more hockey left in him.
Yeah, he learned everything he knows from Strud. Right,
No.
Struddy? Like,
No, he couldn't believe when we played together. He couldn't believe I couldn't do a reverse toe drag. I'm like, I've never even seen it, and so he spent his time teaching it to me.
Right.
It was embarrassing. It was like Bambi learning how to skate. It was awful.
well, can he go high and hard off the glass like you can, Strud? I mean,
He can't hit every pane of glass like I could.
you should have challenged him to a high and
Any
hard
angle.
competition.
And never over the glass, guys. Not one over the glass penalty.
Never 2-minute penalty right off the perfect angle and off some guy's teeth, but it was beautifully done every single time. All right, Warren, well, enjoy the offseason. Like you said, man, it's a quick turnaround, and LA, they got a good team. It's going to be a really cool scene out there. So congrats on that. Congrats on a great season in Edmonton, and I know it's been a busy time, so we appreciate you finding some time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And Hayes is a fraud.
Thank you, Warren. I appreciate that. Warren Foegele. I didn't know that was coming, but that's probably going
He knows it.
viral. That one might sting. NHL players saying Hayes is a fraud on the way out. I do not need that to
What if
become
that
a thing.
became a T-shirt and it started to work its way into locker rooms?
Actually, that'd be pretty good for the profile of the show. I'd accept
want
that. Yeah, I'd be willing to accept that from that standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, Warren's he's a good guy, Markham guy. I think maybe a Unionville guy. You got to get that right.
Boy.
Yeah, that's big. You know, it can't be just Markham. It's got to be Unionville. If you're Unionville proper, you got to make sure you say that. But
Boys, my first game when I played at the Canucks, I moved to Chicago. My first game back against Vancouver after being there for 5 years. My first shift, I come around the net. Ed Jovanovski's on Vancouver. I'm on Chicago. I go tape to tape to Jovanovski. Like, I was like, he's still on my team. It was on the tape.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Great, best pass I ever made. And they're in our zone for like 2 minutes after that. Sedins are buzzing. I come to the bench. My coach is like, you know what team you play for? And I'm like, I do. I'm sorry, everybody. Sorry. But that first game, and I didn't even win anything with Vancouver. Could you imagine now going to another team that you're going to be competing directly with? This is a direct competition to get out to the playoffs. Like, he's a pro. He'll figure it out. But the nerves that first time, I knew how I felt, and I wasn't even that good of a player. So he's going to be feeling nerves.
Yeah, I mean that. Like he was an everyday guy through that playoff run. Like there's something special about that, right? Like they were that close, like he said, and that scramble in front of Bob.
Oh,
Like that it was right there. It was like I was yelling at the screen. I'm like, someone get a stick on that. And it felt like Reinhart scored 7 seconds later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like it was just a classic, buzzing, missed opportunity, odd man rush the other way in the net, deflation. What happens now? And the Oilers, they were pressing in the third, but they couldn't get it done. But Warren Foegele had a really good 3 years there. He was good in Carolina prior to him showing up, and he'll be a good member of that Kings team, man. Like
big body.
Yeah.
Him and Quinton Byfield. I wonder if those guys get together. Like, those are two big, fast bodies.
Yeah.
And Quinton, he had a great first half. That's a guy I think we need to watch if you're into the fantasy world.
Yeah. Toronto
Jonas,
guy.
you with me? You're not
I'm 100% with you.
There it is. God, we're just like,
Yeah,
we're two brains.
Did you hear who he mentioned? The little Adam Henrique, Hayes.
I know.
They're neighbors.
Yeah.
You guys
I know.
love Adam
Yeah.
Henrique. Henrique for the Selkie next year.
Let's
Put
call
your vote in
Foegele.
now.
Call Fogel's mom and dad so we can get Henrique on the show right now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What did you do to raise such a great player?
I love that Warren's honest, too. He's like, yeah, I'm looking into skating up there at some point.
Not yet.
Like, Gagne's got something cooking. I'll look into
Thanks.
that. But
The
yeah,
best guy.
Yeah. Wow. How many years did you play with Gagne?
A couple of years. And I'm not kidding you. He tried to teach me how to stick handle. He's like, just do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, buddy, I can't do that. Like, we didn't have skills coaches. When I grew up, we did the circles, 5 circles, right? As fast as you can, just chew the ice right up and then try to make a pass. And this guy comes in, and I couldn't believe how he stick handled. And he's still one of the best stick handles I've ever been on the ice with. Just incredible. So talented. It was incredible. And a great guy.
Yeah. Him and Tavares are very close.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he was a London Knight, and he stepped right in at 18 years old, Sam Gagne. And you remember he had that 8-point night too?
Yeah.
8-point night.
That was incredible. And really good career. Really good career.
I actually played with his dad when I was towards the end of his career, Dave, and then I played with Sam. And it's pretty crazy. So, you play with two generations
There
of the
you
same
go.
family.
Like
It's
David
just-
Perron with the Kachucks.
Yeah, same
Same thing. That's incredible.
It is. And just similar player, both skilled, right? But Sam Gagne, I mean, he's had an amazing career.
Yeah, and they love him out
so
there,
smart.
right? Love him in Edmonton.
What's he been here He played for Oilers 3 times, I think. Three
different times.
For a
different
skilled
times.
guy, he brings so much emotion. Not that all skilled players don't bring that, but he just brings emotion like crazy. So, hopes he still wants to play. Hope he can find a few.
Yeah, he's still skating up in Muskoka, man. Like, I guess McDavid's preparing for that wedding, so I don't know if McDavid's training right now either. I guess
he'll probably skate on his wedding day.
Yeah, he probably will work
push
out.
the wedding back. Ice is from 2 to 4. We got to push the wedding back to 6 now.
Right, exactly. Ceremony starts at 6 after a bag skate somewhere in Muskoka. Thanks again to Warren Foegele. Appreciate that. We've got Brett Boone coming up, and we got the Jays in action tonight, right?
Mm-hmm. France just won,
tonight.
by the way.
Did France win? Did they win in kick?
kicks.
Was it
Yeah.
kicks? Okay. So France is through. They never score.
Yeah,
Like they still, it was 0-0, and they win on penalties, but France still doesn't score yet. They're into the semis. So you probably got to figure that out against Spain, I would think. You got a few days to figure that out, but you might want to start scoring some goals. Same thing with Canada. Canada, they're into the quarters against Venezuela, and they've scored one goal. Yeah, they scored once against Peru.
Mm-hmm.
But it's enough, and they're through. So there you go. Okay, France is through today, and Spain is through today, and we got 2 more matches tomorrow. So it's going to be a great quarterfinal up on TSN. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Blue Jays back in action tonight. Yankees at home against the Sox. The Yankees have lost 14 of 19, and they're bringing out the big guns tonight to get the positive vibes going at Yankee Stadium. You see what they're giving out tonight?
Oh, no.
George Costanza bobblehead night, because it's Seinfeld night in the Bronx tonight, and the first 18,000 fans will get a George Costanza bobblehead.
So they should do the opposite of what they've been doing.
There you go.
Huh?
That's exactly what I think is happening
I like
here.
that.
I love that idea. So I'd take that. Like, I'm not a big bobblehead guy. There it is. But I kind of like the idea of like non-sports related bobbleheads. Right? Like, if I could get a Costanza bobblehead, I'd take that. For sure.
I don't have any bobbleheads. I don't think I've ever bought one. I've never been given one.
I've never bought one. I've been given, I have a Doug Flutie Argos throwback. I like that.
Jonas, you got a couple.
I used to have a lot of them.
But you're a collector?
No, they would just be sent to me, and now I don't have any.
What's your prized
Really
possession?
something, huh?
What's your favorite one?
Oh, that's it. I think I had a Rick Fox Lakers one, which is pretty random.
That's pretty cool. How would you have got, why would they send
That's
a
random.
Rick Fox Lakers bobblehead to a Maple Leaf reporter?
Long story. It's not like a work thing.
Oh, so you were just
More
like on a list where you're a fan?
Yeah, like how do you get on that list?
How do you get on a list? I'd take a Rick Fox bobblehead. I think that'd be kind of cool. Good Canadian boy,
good-looking
Rick
guy.
Fox. Yeah, great looking dude.
Maybe the best looking Laker of all time.
That's an interesting debate.
Yeah, maybe get a poll question going
Well,
on
we don't
that.
have to debate it, but I mean,
It's a statement. It's a known fact. I mean, come on.
He's an actor. Actually, I saw him the other day in a movie. I forget which one, but he still looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's Canadian, or he's got some sort of Canadian heritage. I don't know if he was born in Canada or not,
I don't
but
think he was.
he's got some sort of Canadian lineage. So we'll take that.
Do you think Canada
Take
has a
claim to Rick
shot
Fox.
this summer at a gold?
Yeah, not a gold necessarily. I don't think I'd go that far.
Think anyone can beat the U.S.?
Yes, I think, I'm not going to give you an answer on who that would be. It's probably the answer is the Americans would beat themselves, right? Like based on paper and how much talent they have. You know what I mean, though? Like if they show up and they mail it in or they don't take it seriously or they don't, there's no cohesion there, you can lose. That's been proven. Like this is not the dream team, and like the other countries in world, like the world is caught up in many areas, but they're still stacked. They're still the prohibitive favorite.
Did he play? Like what's
Golden
he's
State's
never
not
really had a
letting
good
him.
relationship.
That's the reports, but
Don't believe that?
why would they not
They're
let him
trying
play?
to trade him.
So what?
They don't want him to get hurt. His contract's huge.
He's got years left on his deal.
I know,
And if
so
you
if
can't trade him now, why would it make a difference what happens at the Olympics? Wouldn't, if anything, it help his
I
cause?
agree with you. I think it makes sense.
My Spidey
but
radar sense
You
is
think
going.
it's just he's.
I don't know, man.
Okay.
Like his history, I don't know, but he has been.
They're fine without him.
They'd be better with him though.
Yeah,
Sure.
depth helps, man. You always
Yes.
want depth. Just
Guys like Adam Henrique, right?
He's
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Wiggins is the Adam Henrique of the Canadians.
He's not as good.
I
Yes,
will
he
not
is.
say that. I will not. I cannot.
I will. I will.
Oh, of
I think
course.
He did win a
Wiggins-
title, so and he was
he
the
was
second best player on the team.
like a really
That's a
good
good point.
yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough.
good.
piece.
Okay, maybe.
Like Wiggins can play. Like he hasn't
He
been
did
great.
not have a good year last year.
Yeah, and he had something going on where he left the team for a long
Yeah,
time, and there's
personal
I don't
stuff.
know what's going on with him. But I wish he was playing. Like I guess
Why
that's
wouldn't you
what I would
want
say.
to?
Exactly, and Zach Edey
Why
the same
wouldn't
thing.
you want to, man? It's
Yeah.
so
I
want to.
exciting to go
Get
to the
over there,
Olympics, play
man.
with your buddies. Like,
Yeah.
I would die. I would do anything to be a part of that.
Be incredible.
team.
Exactly, to the point where I would call the Warriors and be like, "Why are you explain to me why I can't go?
Right.
Like explain to me
go.
publicly. I want to know right now why you're letting Steph go. Like why can't I play?
We're not trying to trade Steph.
Well, I know, but that seems like a cop out. We're trying to trade him.
Yeah.
And how many injuries
know.
actually happen? Like how many times you see someone really
Exactly.
get injured? And I don't want to
Exactly.
see it happen, but it's pretty rare. Like let's
Right.
be honest, a massive injury.
And even
like
if he
rolled
suffers
ankle.
a minor injury, he's still going
Yeah.
to play again. It's not going to affect his
Yeah.
trade value. All right, final hour coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.